Harris County Department of Education has come to, whatever the word is, and come to order. Thank you. And then we'd like to ask Kelly Toomey for invocation. It is 1:07.
Bow your heads, please. Lord, we humbly come before you today to ask you to guide us in our education endeavors for Harris County. We are stewards of many gifts and resources, and we ask your watch care, not only over the school board and their work, but also guidance in their support of educators and programs here at Harris County. We seek your discipline, Lord, as your servant Timothy wrote, not only for the purpose of godliness, but for our purpose as stakeholders in education. Bless our intention and drive each day and strengthen our service to the people of Harris County and the students, teachers, and staff in our care and employ. Amen.
And I'd like to invite Dr. Kalina Pallard to do our pledges.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. The Board of Trustees of Harris County Department of Education now convened at a regular board meeting on Wednesday, September 18th in the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present at the meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operational is the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, the board members received information related to the items of today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Now I'd like to address some law changes that went into effect as of September 1st. And I'll just read, this has to do with House Bill 2840, public comment at board meetings. The Texas Legislature passed House Bill 2840 this past session, adding requirement related to public comment to the Texas open house meetings effective September 1, 2019. Each member of the public who desires to address the board regarding an item on the agenda must be permitted to do so before or during the board's consideration of the agenda item. HCDE is in the process of revising its policy regarding public participation in the board meetings. Policy BED local will have its first reading of revised policy in today's meeting. In the meantime, the following rules shall apply in order to comply with House Bill 2840. 1. At all meetings, including regularly called and workshop meetings, the board shall hear persons who desire to make comment to the board on agenda items. Persons who wish to participate in this portion shall complete a participation request card at least 10 minutes prior to the board meeting and shall indicate the agenda item about which they wish to speak. 2. At regular meetings, the board shall allot approximately 30 minutes to hear persons who desire to make comment to the board on non-agenda items. Persons who wish to participate in this portion of the board shall complete a participation request card at least 10 minutes prior to the board meeting and shall indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. 3. No participant shall be allotted more than 5 minutes total in the meeting, including public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. The participant's time may be further limited in sole discretion of the board president in the interest of time and efficiency. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In the event that the board meeting in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 through 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Governmental Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that the cell phones are turned off or in the silent position. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to join us for your interest in the Harris County Department of Education. Whew, having said all that, let's get everybody rolling. Where's my list? Do you have a list? I don't think so. In the book? Here we go. Okay. Crystal Bessex.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. I am Crystal Bessex, President of EdOps Solutions. Probably not often vendors come back to say thank you, so today I want to applaud the board with appreciation for working with EdOps Solutions. For the past 6 years, we've been a vendor providing educational opportunities for both your Case for Kids program, professional development for educators, as well as with the Adult Education Department offering workforce development certification programs. So in our next contract year, we are excited to continue our success. With a 91% success rate of your adult education learners achieving certification in customer service and sales, we are now looking forward to bringing our employer network to Harris County Department of Education. I thought the invocation was very fitting this morning about praying and being blessed to strengthen our service. I think together, EdOps Solutions and Harris County Department of Education, we are strengthening the service. Through education, employment, and economic impact, I believe that the adult education program provides us the opportunity to do that. And as your vendor, I am excited to continue our journey together in this next contract year as we add our employer network, which will bring companies to these students for job opportunities. And that's both local and national employers that we have in our network. So again, thank you to the board. We look forward to working with you again in this upcoming contract year.
Thank you very much. Rue Tuo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I'm here to address agenda item 7A and 7C. First of all, the 7A, you're reducing the tax rate from 0.005190 to 0.005029. And I did the calculation. For a house that's a value of $300,000, that's effectively saving me $48.30 a year. So that's about $4 a month, and it costs me just as much to drive here in gas, to show support for the department, which I assume should have been the jobs of the board members to support the departments and the staffs and everybody working so hard and contributing to our community and the students and the families of the community. So, and the number two is the population in the area has been booming, growing, and you keep lowering the tax rates. And for $48 a year, that's what, one latte a month. And for that money, however, it can come in very handy for the much needed, the students and the communities who need the service. And I don't see why you would use us taxpayers as a front to lower the tax rate. And number two, the 7C, there's a lot of things listed, and I have no idea what they are. I would appreciate it if these are published first, so the public can have a chance to look at it and give proper comments before they are voted on, because I think bylaws are very important. That's how we are going to operate, right? How everybody's following. So it's very important that for the public to have, for the board to have transparencies and the public knows what's going on. That's the whole idea of this public institution, right? We don't want it private, because when it's private, then who knows? They may not have proper oversight that we public can keep an eye on. Right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank You.
Dr. Mesqua, correct me if I'm wrong, I think our figures were substantially higher. I don't think it's $42 per person. They could probably be.
It's actually $15.57, and then with the new rate proposed would be $15, so a difference of 57 cents.
So it's a difference. How much would that affect the average taxpayer? You're saying 57 cents?
On a $300,000 home.
Yes.
That you mentioned, it would be 57 cents.
So 57 cents, not $42. 57 cents is the difference that a taxpayer would feel. 2 quarters and 2 pennies. Thank you. Thank you both.
And just to address your other concern with regard to policy, that was repeated, that was published at last meeting. So this is the second reading of what was published.
Was it published?
It was not?
And that's on purpose. It was not.
Is there some way where we could do it more transparent, where we could?
So it's expressly exempt from the Texas Public Information Act draft policy-making documents, in which these red line versions of the changes are draft policy-making documents. Those are accepted from the Texas Public Information Act, and for that reason, they are not published in the agenda backup. They're sent under separate cover to the board and are draft policy-making documents.
But just because it's exempt doesn't mean we can't be more transparent and let the constituents see it.
So
Is there any specific reason besides it just being exempt that we aren't letting people see it?
The reason for the exemption, if you look in the Texas Public Information Act that allows governmental entities to withhold drafts of policymaking documents, is the reasoning is that it would hinder the open discussions that would take place necessary to draft policy if the public could see, for example, that one version had, some language in it and that was eventually taken out and could scrutinize that would hinder the policy-making process and that open ability to dialogue with one another as board members. That being said, if the board, as a body corporate, decided that you wanted to release the drafts, the board by action could do so.
I'm of a different mindset. I think sunshine is a good disinfectant, but that's
And
what
if-
we're with.
And if the board, as a body corporate, desired to do that, that could be possible.
Trustee Norris, did you have a comment on that? Okay. The actual policy, though, is public. The current policy is public.
The current adopted board policy, and so, for example, today, if the board votes to approve the policies that are listed, then those will be sent to TASB Policy Services to upload to the public, and those are searchable and readily available online to anybody who desires to see them.
Okay, so we did list each one on our agenda that we were going to discuss. So any interested person could be here to discuss any particular item if they see the change. Do they actually see this at all?
They don't see the change. What was available to the public is the board's current adopted policy, not the red line changes that the Board of Trustees received under separate cover. And that is because if that was uploaded onto the website, then administration, which doesn't have the authority to do so, would waive that exception to the Texas Public Information Act that allows drafts of policymaking documents to be withheld. So, and the board could do that. If the board desired to waive that exception and make those drafts public, the board as a body corporate by vote, if there was an agenda item to do so, could do that. But that has not been the practice because of the waiver.
And I would encourage someone to put that type of agenda item on there. I think just because we can hide stuff doesn't mean we should. I think we should be transparent.
Okay, well, we'll get to that when we get to that agenda item. At this point, I'd like to ask Jonathan Miller, sorry.
Okay. Hello, board. I was not able to make last month, and I apologize for that. I was not able to take the time out of my job to come here and hold you guys accountable. However, I want you to know that every meeting that you guys have, I watch it on YouTube. So I have to leave here after I talk to go back to work, but I'll still be watching. So if I'm not physically here, I'm still watching. I actually enjoyed not having to come last week because I didn't have to worry about leaving work, racing to get here, speaking, and then racing back to work in time, so I'm okay with my job. I would imagine some of you might have been happy I wasn't here either. But I'm here again, and it's pretty simple. If you don't want me here, which I'm fine with, and you don't want the outcry from the public, then act ethically. It's pretty simple. I'm here to urge you to keep the tax rate at the same tax rate that it currently is. Currently, you're proposing a 3.1% reduction in taxes, which has been a trend for years. So it isn't like it's a one-time thing that you're reducing taxes. It's been a trend for years. It has come to the activist community's attention that President Josh Flynn wants to go lower than 3.1%. He wants a 100% reduction to an effective tax rate of $0. And in this is a coup to destroy the board. And you don't need to take my word for it. We can pull straight from Josh Flynn's words. In a questionnaire conducted by the Conservative Coalition of Harris County, Josh Flynn was asked, do you think the state legislature should pass legislation to consolidate the HCDE systems into local ISDs within Harris County? If not, why? His answer, I think the infrastructure can be converted into a nonprofit without local property taxes. If our aim is to eliminate bureaucracy, then giving the assets over to another bureaucracy is only eliminating one layer of government and adding resources to another. I am for eliminating additional layers, so consolidating would be preferred over continued operations. This is important. My bigger plan would be to analyze what we are doing in transitioning each program one by one into something that can be self-sustained and competitive with the market. That means privatize. Right now, the binary choice seems radical on both sides, but at this point, simply sending the assets and administration to the ISDs seems counterproductive, although better than continued operations. And to make it simple for everybody here in the board, there was another question that said, if elected, what do you hope to accomplish while serving on Harris County School Trustee? Streamline the existing programs and make the programs viable for transition to a private, nonprofit organization by reducing cost. So, to the amazing staff and the public, your board president purposefully and continuously is working to eliminate not only a valued program to Harris County, your board is trying to eliminate your jobs. I urge that the county attorney, Vince Ryan, investigate the board for several infractions of unethical behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Joy Davis.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everybody that braved the weather to come out. I was just listening to his message, and it sounds like there's an ethics problem here. And one of the things, and I'm going to just read from the board member's code of ethics. As a member of the board, I shall promote the best interests of the department as a whole, and to that end shall adhere to the following ethical standards. So if someone is actively working against the Harris County Department of Education, that person should not be in this position. We take a lot of cuts. The education program, we have children that they're falling by the wayside, and they use wraparound services that are provided here. The decrease in the tax rate works against the Harris County Department of Education because revenue is needed for these programs. Another thing, I will continuously be guided by what's best for all students of the department, and that's also in the Code of Ethics, as in under student-centered focus. I will be fair, just, and impartial in all my decisions and actions. That is equity in attitude. And the elected officials here, they're supposed to represent the Harris County Department of Education. It's failing us. And they need to be voted out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne-Marie Mercado?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mario Mercado. I'm representing myself. Yes, so lowering the tax rate, please don't do that. Basically, it works out that I only pay $1 per month for my home, so I'm happy with paying $1 a month for HCDE taxes. This will guarantee that the programs are funded. Head Start, after-school programs for the kids, people that are trying to get their GED, your wonderful employees here at this meeting, and everybody, that it's affected, please, please, please don't lower the rate. We need the rate. I don't mind paying $1 a month. I think my home is worth get tax rate at $225,000 for my home, so I think it comes out to $1. Each day it'll come out to like what, 4 cents a day or 5 cents. I don't mind paying 5 cents a day if it's going to guarantee the kids after school programs, Head Start, GED classes, it's salaries for your employees here. Do not lower the tax rate, please. And 7C, there should be transparency. You guys need to come out here and talk about, don't go into a little room and talk and then, make decisions. We need to be also aware of what's happening. And that's all I have. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Andrea Duhan?
Afternoon, Board. I'm Andrea Duhan. Just talking about the tax rate again. I want to state something, though. Specifically, HCDE requires board members have certain qualifications to serve all of the students and staff of the entire Department of Education. And one of them is that they must be persons of good education and in sympathy with the public free schools. That is a requirement to serve on this board. In a questionnaire from a conservative organization, Mr. Flynn stated that he intended to make programs viable for transition to a private, nonprofit organization. That proves unequivocally that you do not, in fact, support public free schools, Mr. Flynn. We've heard you state in these meetings that you would like to bring the tax rate to 0. We can rewind the records on that. That would effectively defund these programs for the students that desperately need them. For all of these employees, 1,000 people almost, that work here could effectively lose their jobs because you wouldn't be supporting public free schools. I know that some of you find the ethics to be innate, that you would like to support the people who need these things. And I need for you to all look within yourselves and recognize that this is legitimately going to hurt people immediately if these tax rates are lowered. It does not hurt us to have the tax rate that we currently do. It helps us. It saves our ISDs money. So please help us out. Support the public education system by supporting these tax rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah?
Good afternoon, Board. I'm Deborah Kerner, and I'm a former board member. I used to sit up there like you do. Thank you for letting me address the board this afternoon. I want to speak about number 7, action item non-consensus A, the tax rate, as have others here. But as on the printed agenda, the proposed tax rate is 0.005029, which is about half a penny per $100 assessed property value for the 2019 tax year, or about $5 per year for a home taxed at $100,000. Or to put it into perspective, about the cost of 2 of my cups of coffee from this morning's breakfast. Our children are worth at least that much. Harris County Department of Education provides many needed services such as special schools, Head Start, after-school programs, and many others. These are needed to provide a quality education for the children in Harris County. We need an educated workforce for this county to continue to strive and grow. The Texas Constitution says that we need to provide a quality public education. It says public education. When I was on the board, I testified before the House Legislature Public Education Committee, and it was a bipartisan group of board members who testified. We also had superintendents from the ISDs and board members from the ISDs who spoke in defense of Harris County Department of Education. The ISDs want the services provided by this department. We need to continue to provide these services. You were elected to provide services for the education services for the children of Harris County. Ostensibly, you care about education and our department and an educated workforce. We need to be fiscally responsible and fund those services. Set the tax rate to adequately fund HCDE and the valuable education services that this department provides. Thank you for your time, and I hope for your good vote.
Thank you. And lastly, we have David Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is David Brown. I'm here to speak on lowering the taxes. I'm a first-generation high school graduate and a first-generation college graduate, and God knows where I would be if I didn't have programs to assist me along the way. I'm proud of Harris County Department of Education and all the good that it does for lower-served communities, special needs programs. It directly affects over 160,000 students. So I don't understand why we would want to, this is a village. It takes a village to raise a child. I don't understand why we would want to take away that village. So I'm here to remind us all that we all need some help at a point in our life, and these students most definitely need it, especially the special needs programs, some adult programs. We all need that push and encouragement, so let's keep the tax rate where it is and continue to do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, that ends our, oh, is there another one? Oh, okay. Andre Wagner? Sorry about that.
Honestly, thank you for this moment to speak for a second. To the board, to the members, to Mr. President, and the superintendents, thank you all for allowing me to speak. Just quite briefly to say that I did not have the opportunity of going to school here in Harris County. I didn't have the opportunity of going to school here in Texas. But as soon as I could, I came here. And I was supported by our institution, Texas Southern University and University of Houston, because the people of Texas invested in a quality education system. And I had the opportunity of being rewarded from those experiences. I graduated from Texas Southern University. I now work, and I'm now a productive member of society. A lot of people in our system, a lot of people in this county depend on you all to be able to fund the education system to an equitable level. Now, the Texas Supreme Court, a Republican-controlled Texas Supreme Court, said that we do not fund our education system to an equitable level. And the legislature has put a lot more money into the education system, but we are still grossly negligent on our funding. There is a lot of big school districts. I live in HISD, and my sister teaches in HISD, and my mom teaches in Cy-Fair ISD. And a lot of the larger school districts are doing very well. But we have a lot of smaller school districts. There's over 25 school districts. And I've had the opportunity of going to a lot of these small school districts. Sheldon ISD, Goose Creek ISD, Galena Park ISD. Lord knows that there's a lot of resources that we can pour into a lot of the smaller school districts that need assistance. I'm not saying HISD does. What I am saying is that I am sure that some of the school districts in Harris County could use the support of HCDE. I'm not imploring you to raise the tax level. What I would ask is that you keep the tax level at its current level right now of 0.0519%. Honestly, it's from where I stay, it's literally 73 cents a month. And so I think I can manage 73 cents a month. And so please, if you could, I understand fiscal responsibility and wanting to transfer burdens to nonprofits, whatever the case may be. I literally focus my attention to individuals that perhaps have a different political affiliation than I do, but it does not matter. I know you care about the education of children. And if that is the case, then please keep the current level where it's at, because there is so much more that can be done in the school districts that are not like AHCISD, that are not like Cy-Fair ISD, that are not like Spring Branch ISD. I believe those are the 3 school districts that all of our board members sit on. But the small school districts, once again, Sheldon, Goose Creek, Galena Park, Deer Park, Channelview, these small school districts can use a lot more support that you all have the ability to provide. So if you could, please, please do not reduce this tax rate. I understand it looks good for an election, but honestly, I think that we can do more with those resources in other places than saving 52 cents or whatever in a year. I think we could use more with that. And keeping those 52 cents, when we multiply 52 cents among 1 million people, then it does a lot more for these small school districts. So if you could, please keep it at the tax rate. And thank you so much for your time. You all have a great day.
Thank you so much. Okay, now this ends the open forum portion of our thing, and we go straight up to an annual update from Teaching and Learning Center, Dr. Frances Watson Hester.
Okay, good afternoon, President Flynn, Mr. Colbert, trustees and cabinet. My name is Frances Hester, and I'm the proud Senior Director of the Teaching and Learning Center. We offer exemplary professional development throughout Harris County and beyond. I would like at this time to please have my team please stand, because none of this work will be possible without the Teaching and Learning Center's team. Let's please appreciate them. So thank you. You may be seated. I have included a report of the Teaching and Learning Center's work for the 2018-2019 school year in your board packet for your review. However, I would love to share a summary of our work at a glance with you at this time. Is that okay? Okay, thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So the Teaching and Learning Center, our primary focus is improving student achievement one teacher at a time. We offer an array of services, some you see listed, for example, English language arts, science, mathematics, social studies, etc. We are very thankful for our research and evaluation department. They work alongside the Teaching and Learning Center, and 4 to 6 weeks after participants participate in a workshop, a survey is conducted. Based on the feedback and responses, within that 1 month of training, participants go back and they share new learning and they share strategies, and the report is 85%, which is overwhelming. We have a multitude of highlights. Several are indicated in your board packet, so I won't read through those. Last year we focused on Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, but this year we want to focus on something special. While TLC is known to focus on indirect support, meaning we directly support teachers, we also focus on the direct support. So our youth symposium was a huge hit this year. The goal was to address career readiness, which directly aligns to TEA, the accountability system. We were directly able to impact 750 students. The goal was to encourage students to set goals, initiate steps to achieving their goals, identifying intrinsic and extrinsic barriers, and becoming empowered to move past obstacles of achievement for students. I think the best way to share this day would be simply to share a testimony from a student, and we also served students across Harris County.
I got a chance to experience different workshops for youth, The really important thing that I got a chance to know was about financial literacy, because going off to college, I needed to be prepared. What to do when I run into debt, or how to avoid debt, and just how to basically balance and know what to spend on. This event is wonderful because you get a chance to connect with different schools, you get a chance to connect with different businesses and different mentors within this organization that many would not even have the opportunity to experience. Like today, I got a chance to see Dr. Ruffin, and he told me about his time overseas, and just having that time to really talk with him, this is something that I wouldn't be able to do elsewhere.
Opportunity to live in many different states and cities and participate in a variety of education systems, but never have I ever seen this strong of a gathering for places. Professors or speakers always come in and talk about all the great stuff. I wanted to give them hey, I've done just about the worst things that someone in their shoes could do, being a teenager, going through the ups and downs and figuring out the rights and wrongs and making mistakes and failures and showing them, giving them real life examples of what I've done and giving them, hope that those mistakes and failures that I made didn't define who I am today, and they definitely won't define who they are and who they could be. So to let those mistakes not define them, but refine them.
So we were very excited about this day because students actually got an opportunity to walk away with a true experience. Our workshop and staff development participation, TLC provided services to 97 entities, which included all 25 school districts in Harris County. We also assisted 48 districts outside of Harris County and 24 other entities across the county. TLC again surpassed its 90% goal again this year with client satisfaction. We reported as being 98% as a satisfaction rate. Our top noted strengths that we're very, very proud of at 99%, the useful applications for my professional work, the sessions expanded my knowledge and skills, overall effectiveness was very high, and then the presenter knowledge was very high as well. Our 32nd annual R.T. Garcia Early Childhood Winter Conference was a huge success. We supported 22 Harris County school districts, 27 were outside of Harris County, 373 were private schools and charter schools, but most importantly, we had 1,000 plus attendees on this particular day with 5 sponsorships that we received. We will continue to collaborate with various entities within Harris County, and then our specialists continue to play a huge role with serving in the community. We also engage in various conferences throughout Harris County, so we make sure that we stay out and about and we're highly visible. Our plans are always to continue to bring in new, innovative, research-based professional development and also to stay relevant. One of the huge things that we're getting requests from over and over again is that support with providing social-emotional learning, but we're going to take it a step forward. Our goal is to provide social-emotional learning, but to teach teachers how to bridge that to the content. And finally, our trends and challenges. Workshop attendance and contracts continue to grow. Although our districts are still struggling financially, we still are providing for districts. Districts are opting to contract with us instead of hiring FTEs or hiring additional staff. And the Teaching and Learning Center endeavors to identify and provide unique, high-need services for clients to address the current trends and challenges in education. Thank you. Do I have any questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the superintendent's monthly report. Dr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to commend really the superintendents in Harris County. We were on the phone 3 o'clock this morning dealing with weather. And weather is always a challenging thing for a superintendent. It's a decision you don't want to get wrong. But I'm very impressed with the collaboration that has been shown by our superintendents and the coordination even through Region 4 and being able to allow us to make a very decisive decision And we were fortunate that, the storm kind of wrapped around the city of Houston. Just a point of note to the board, our philosophy with Harris County Department of Ed is we want to be open more than we are closed, because we serve 25 school districts. So 6 school districts could close, but we can't close the entire department because there would be 19 school districts waiting for services that wouldn't get it that are staying open. So I want to draw your attention to that. This week I'll be traveling along with several of my colleagues to Dallas to go to the TASB conference. I believe Mr. Norris is also going to be joining us, representing the board. Every year Texas has 2 conferences. The one in the fall is one that's geared far more towards our board members, which is very, very good conference, but not as large, bless you, not as large as the midwinter conference that happens in January. So I look forward to that. Not next week, but the week after next, on the 30th, we have the 2019 Leadership Symposium being led by our TLC department that just presented. And part of that, we have someone that's going to be speaking to probably, what is it, Dr. McLeod, 200, 300 people so far coming for attendance with that. There'll be a representative from TEA that will be talking about the new accountability system. But more important than that, we have 9 superintendents who are going to be attending this conference and speaking on a panel that I will be moderating. 9 superintendents in one facility is a lot of brass. We have Clear Creek, LaPorte, Aldine, Crosby, Fort Bend, Houston ISD, Tomball, Alief, and Spring. And so, Stafford Pool, he's got a meeting. So there was 10, but there's 9 now. So we're really looking forward to that. That will be interesting, and we'll be probing our leaders throughout the county about their perspective with accountability, the new accountability system, how their leadership style has had to adjust, how they steer the narrative to the community, and ultimately the strategies that they use moving forward to be successful. And finally, I'd like to recognize one of our board members who is getting recognized by the Dignity Memorial, is giving the Angel in the Community Award as part of the Hispanic Heritage Month. Mr. Cantu, yeah, he's looking around like, who would that be? What is that, September 22nd, so congratulations. That's all I have.
Okay, there is no feasibility study meeting. Are there any additional or other board member reports?
I just want to commend superintendent and then his staff for the awesome convocation event. Myself and several other board members were in attendance, and it was just an exciting event. Lots of energy in the room, and the highlight, of course, was the cartoon with the positive message about getting things done. And so just congratulate you for all that work to energize our staff for the year. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to Dr. Jesus Amezcua to give us our monthly financial reports.
It always happens to me.
Dr. Amezcua, you're like kryptonite.
I clear the room. Okay, the first report is as of August 31st, is the last month of the year. Again, this is tentative. We still have to do the audit and finalize and perform accruals and finalize our information. So this is a preliminary August 31st. So all our information is posted on our website, our budget amendment, our financial report, and our balance sheet as of August 31st, again unaudited, and total assets of $38,438,910, liabilities of $2,276,358, and equity of $38,438,910, including appropriations. Our fund balance estimated is $29,199,875, of which unassigned is $17,557,465. We will update that number as we end the year for the fiscal year, and probably the next time that you will see that, it will be in the January board meeting when we present the audit results. Our ratios for the year as of August, we're at 38% versus 35%. Again, this is preliminary. Working capital ratio, we're at 36 million versus 32 million last year. Unassigned fund balance ratio, we're at 49%, same as last year. Debt to income ratio, 7%, the same as last year. Tax revenue to total revenue ratio, 24%, increase from last year from 23%. Indirect cost to tax ratio, we're at 3%, a little bit better than a year ago. We continue to receive additional grants. Fee for service revenue ratio, we're at 21%, a little bit down from a year ago at 23%. Our growth ratio, again, continues to go up at 4% from a year ago. Our budgeted activity, we've had not too many amendments during the year, and we have a total of 29,412,165. Our revenues, we're at 99% in general fund. Special revenues are 59%. Overall, budget to actual, we're at 82%. Our budget to actual appropriations, because of all our grants that we've been adding, 117 million in revenues and 132 million in projected appropriations. Again, mind you, they're grants that have a different fiscal year. Expenditures, we're at 84% in the general fund, with about $2 million of encumbrances, 74% budget to actual for the year for all funds. Our donations report for the year, we received 103,218 for the year, a little bit down from a year ago, from 210,115. This month we receive donations for Center for Safe Schools, the TLC, Head Start, the various Head Starts that receive 24,529.77 in in-kind. This is the values that I was mentioning earlier today in a meeting. We started the year with 449 billion. We're at 483 billion overall, but for the year we're at 445 billion, which is about 5 billion less than when we started the fiscal year. And that translates to about 193,000 less in terms of levy because of the values not being certified. Year-to-date collections, 22.8, 22.9 overall, 97.9% on budget to actual, and we have approximately 170,178 in HCAT fees and tax office fees of 448,879. Our disbursements for the month approximately are 3.6 million. 371 checks, 615 transactions, and 6 transfers, and all the detail is posted and also part of your packet. Segment information we have includes encumbrances, so we still have some pending encumbrances. Educator certification, a negative 375,708. Records management, 123,154. School-based therapy, 1,927,219, and schools of 3,227,128. Choice variance right now, benefit ratio is at 6,317,826. In terms of our budget amendment report, we don't have amendments for the month of August for general fund, but we do have some grants of 99,321. Of which some of them are from Early Head Start, 37,000, Adult Ed to adjust our grant, 94,571, Early Head Start to adjust the rollover amount by 30,804, Early Head Start training grant, $696, and our case adjustment to the actual grant of $750. In our AB West and PFC update for August 31st, we have total expenditures of 3,924,160, which was reported at the PFC, and those are the expenditures by month. We have earned year to date, or rather project to date, $425,555 in interest, of which approximately $44,834 are going to be set aside for reserve for arbitrage rebate at the end of the project. We have a total, again, from the PFC, $8,494,394 that is still in our funds, and we have a retainage of $108,676. These are all the list of the payment log that we went over earlier, and $3,924,000 is the total of all expenditures. Again, this is posted on our website, and this is our kind of a project income statement to date, totaling to the $8,496,394. The projected completion is still October. No, I think we need to adjust that. Yes, I haven't adjusted that, so I need to make that adjustment because we had a difference in the date and we had an amendment, so I'll need to update that number. Foundation update as of August 31st. We have a comparison of from one year to the next, $160,990 in assets, and same thing in equity. Cash activity for the different funds at $300.12, and also $68,726.41 from September to August 2019. Revenues of $201,731.55, and then earned revenues of $730. Expenses totaling of $133,476, and the miscellaneous expenditures of $299.25. Additional restricted expenses of $199, and also $60.29. The last two slides include how much is classified or restricted, of which that is $68,745, and then unrestricted are $259. So a total net amount of $68,426 is your net amount of your net income revenues minus expenses for the activity year to date. Any questions on the financial statement before I go into the investment report? Okay. The next one is the investment report, and there's been a little bit of a change in the market, so you will see a little bit of what what interest rates are doing. So, with all that's happened with China, there's been an impact on rates coming down. So you will see that in our presentation. All our reports are posted on our website. The total portfolio is $45,524,860, of which 8.6 is the Public Facilities Corporation, and HCDE is $36,885,857. We have. Oh, thank you. That was Google. Try to. Okay, Google, stop. All of our funds are either Chase Bank, Lone Star Investment Pool, Tex Pool, and Techstar. 90% are investment pools, and 10% is the money market sweep account. In the in the PFC, we have Bank of Texas and also Tex Pool, 98% in our Tex Pool fund. We'll be adding another pool to diversify our investment pool, so you start seeing other pools also being added to the mix, just to make sure that we have enough diversity in terms of not put all our monies into one account. 36.8 millions are available pretty much overnight. We've received $772,548 in interest, and then the PFC this year of $239,687, so a little bit over $1 million in interest earnings for the year. We have a 2.1 average yield, and the benchmark is 193, so it's a little bit above that. And you can see that where the rates have been about 2.3, 2.4, and then you saw some of the changes in the market, so they've come down about 20 basis points to 213 and 219. Still not too way below, so hopefully that trend will reverse and we'll continue to earn in some additional revenue. So that's the report for the month of August. Any questions?
Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consensus agenda. Does any trustee have an item that they'd like to pull to discuss? Any others?
C2.
Going once, going twice? Okay, so we can pass the consensus agenda, save D6 and C2. Is that correct? Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Norris and second by. Any discussion? None. All in favor of the consensus item, save D6 and C2, please raise your hand. We'll go in order. C2, do you have something with regard to C2?
Yeah, just a general question. Is this, I see it's for Choice Partners. Is this a contract with HCDE, or is it just setting them up in Choice Partners? I'm just want to be clear.
Yes, hello. This is just a renewal of an existing contract. If you see the first two digits, the 16, it's a 2016 contract. It's just an annual renewal, but we do use them within HCDE. But all of our awarded vendors can transact business with us or anyone that has an interlocal agreement with us. So they're able to work with anyone else also. Is that the answer?
Be clear, this is not a contract for the HCDE.
No. This is just a contract renewal.
Because we just did that two months ago, right?
But we do use them.
For our building and NPO, because those are the officers that come. They're off-duty officers.
Right.
They're separate, but that's the one place that we use them there.
Yeah.
The rest of them are Harris County.
Right.
Is that good?
Not the contract for us to use them here? Okay.
No, that would be separate. It would have a dollar amount.
Okay. All right.
Clear this off the agenda. Is there any discussion with regard to C2? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of C2, please raise your hand. Okay. The next item is D6. This is more of a housekeeping item. I think there was a problem with the public disclose agenda item, and we need to amend D6 from the agenda, on the agenda. Yeah. And that's the removal of, if you'll look at the last line, it says with an option to renew annually for up to 4 additional years. Under consensus, this was to just be removed, that line. So, do I have a motion to that effect?
Discussion.
Go ahead.
That's not the reason I
Okay, well then, let's dispose of this.
No, that's we're talking about this one.
Okay, I'm talking about, I need a motion.
To do what?
To do whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Okay.
What motion do you want to make?
I want to discuss it.
What motion do you want to discuss?
The amended one, D6, that you just talked about. Do we need to vote on the amendment first?
Correct. Yeah, I need somebody to make the motion. There's one. Okay.
Second.
Okay. And this is just the amended motion. This is the amendment. Do you want to discuss about the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Please.
My question is, why is this for a contract for 5 years? This is not a normal situation for us. I know we can fail to appropriate funds, but why would we tie ourselves to these particular organizations for a period of 5 years?
As amended is what?
How is it not?
If, I'm confused about what the motion is. If the motion is to approve the agenda item, which is the contract award as
No,
amended, or is the motion
No, the
only-
motion is to make the amendment, which is to remove with an option to renew annually up to 4 additional years. This would remove that. That is the motion.
I thought we were just discussing the item. So I guess I just said so moved. I guess I should specify.
That's why I was
That's the
Well,
problem.
see, I thought that it was with the amendment, so
So let's clarify, because Mr. Norris, you made the motion, and Mr. Wolf, you seconded it. And I'm understanding from President Flynn, his intention was that the motion would be to remove the phrase with an option to renew annually for up to 4 additional years from the agenda item, and that's the motion on the floor. Is that accurate?
I thought the motion.
One, if you wanted to. You could make a motion to approve as amended,
Yeah.
or you could do a motion to remove that language from the agenda item separately if the board so chose. That's why I
As
don't-
amended would make this germane to the discussion, though, right? If we say we're going to pass this item as amended, it's still, the discussion is still germane then, right?
Correct.
So that's the motion. That's the way we're going to go.
A motion to approve as amended.
Yes, approve as amended.
Is that?
Okay, so that would be your discussion
We're
point.
not, we're just making the motion to change the language and
But
not
Mr.
approving,
Norris-
not approving the amendment.
But Mr. Norris made the motion, so it's his motion. So he just clarified that his motion was to approve the agenda item as amended.
And now we're in the discussion part. So now we can discuss what your issue is with the item.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay, now we can discuss? Now, why is this for 5 years?
Well, we generally anticipate a 5-year life for our RFPs. We either go with 1 year with 4 renewals or 5 years. Looking over the past board meetings, we know the board does not like ratifications, and one of the most common causes for a ratification is the vendor did not send us the renewal forms on a timely basis, and we have to bring it to you late. A 5-year RFP eliminates the step where the vendor has to send us the renewal documents. We still reserve the right to cancel basically at any time, and also subject to appropriation. So every year we have a reason to cancel if we choose to. We can also cancel for cause or for convenience. So it does not hamper us in any way, but it will make it a little bit more efficient and effective, and the board will not have to face ratifications.
Is there any difference in price, having it 1 year or 5 years?
No.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
In addition, the contracts, if they're over 50,000, they'll have to come back to the board because of the dollar amount. This is just a procurement piece. Once you award the contract and the dollar amount goes over 50,000, that has to come back to the board.
Okay, so you're just.
Correct.
So it's really not for the convenience that you just said, because we're gonna have to vote on it anyway.
Well, we still, every year we would have to bring the renewal back.
Right.
And then if we had a 50,000 or more contract, we'd have to bring that back as well.
Well, any of there's a whole bunch of organizations here. Are they all over 50,000 a year?
We've done some work, but we usually in adult ed program, it gets very close to the 50,000 threshold. Most of them sometimes are going to be over 50,000. At the point that it's over 50,000, we bring them to the board.
Okay. I prefer to be bothered. I don't think we need to say that basically we're going to automatically renew these contracts every year unless it goes over 50,000. And are you saying that this particular contract has termination without cause provision?
Yes.
Other than just not appropriating the money?
Yes.
All the standard
And-
Okay, so how are we going to know that you do that? Say that next year you decided that such and such shouldn't be continued. How does the board find that out?
you would not see the contract done. We would just not use that procurement.
But you're saying that that's only if over 50,000.
Whether it's a 50,000 or not, we would still do that.
So we would not know that you terminated it.
Not per se, no. Only if they were actually awarded an amount. Because we also have to report to you every month any contracts below 50,000. So we have to provide you with, and it's in the detail in the monthly agenda as well.
Yeah, but that's only for contracts that you're adding, not contracts you're taking away.
Right. Only for the
Okay.
items. Correct.
So we probably wouldn't find this out anyway, because under the other one, you just wouldn't bring it up the second year.
Bring it to you.
Okay. Well, I just think that, I don't want these people to think that they have a 5-year ride.
Right. Well, we also have a due diligence that we have to do every year, every time we use them, because these are probably, most of them are federal dollars that we're going to use in the adult ed grant.
Okay.
And we have to do our due diligence every time that we do a contract, check for debarment, check that they're, do our due diligence before we do the contract.
Okay, I'm happy.
Any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of D6 as amended, please raise your hand. Okay. Motion passes. That concludes the consensus items. Now to the non-consensus items. 7A. Discussion of truth in taxation calculations, effective tax rate, rollback rate, and approval of the tax rate for fiscal year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Hang on for a second. What are you making the motion to do?
5029 rate.
Yeah, as stated.
So Don, do you have a motion to amend that?
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the proposed rate in the agenda and adopt a tax rate of 0.005.
Motion and a second over here. Can we vote on that first?
This is
No,
amendment.
this is an amendment to your motion.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah, let's have discussion about the amendment. Is there any discussion? I would like to make my own amendment.
Wait on a second. He said he wanted to discuss it. I want to discuss it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you, I'm going to wait on Sarah, I guess, here. Okay. I want to make it plain and clear to the audience that reducing the tax rate to 0.005 does not reduce the amount of money that we budgeted to spend for this next year. As a matter of fact, the budgeted amount is an increase in expenditures over this past year. So no programs are being eliminated. It's just that the fact that the property values have increased sufficiently to allow us to reduce our tax rate and still fund a higher amount of expenditure for next year. So we're not cutting any programs, and we're not trying to reduce our service to the citizens of the county. We're just able to fund those services with a reduced tax rate because of the dramatic increase in the property values in the county this year.
Don, I have a question. How much would your proposed tax rate bring in compared to the current tax rate?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but it's more than enough to cover the budget. because we would have had a budget surplus with the proposed rate.
The taxpayers of Harris County would see an $800,000 increase in their taxes based on Trustee Sumner's amendment.
So based on the .005 tax rate?
Taxes would still go up $800,000.
Can I make what's the difference in the amount of people that are going to be taxed? Are we talking like a penny? We talking a half a penny? What's the bottom line? How is it going to affect people?
And you saw the example of a $300,000 home at last year's rate versus the .0050 would be a differential of 57 cents per year decline.
So it would save people 50 cents
per year.
Okay.
And what's the difference between the budget that was proposed in the original motion as opposed to the amendment? What's the difference in that budget? How much of a difference between .005 and .0050?
Approximately 500,000.
500,000.
I think you said, what, 467,000? Yeah.
Just to be clear, the difference between the .50 and the other amount was it saves the taxpayers 50 cents, average 50 cents.
On a $300,000 home.
A $300,000 home a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and I'd like to amend, if I can, based on our parliamentarian, to .0042. That would make the total tax base of $20 million. I need a second.
I've got a question, Josh.
I need a second first.
I'll second that.
Go ahead with your question.
Well, I would prefer to vote on his amendment, then come back with your amendment if you want to do that. Because right now, we're talking about three different issues in one.
Right now, we're talking about the tax rate of .0042. Okay, that would generate the $20 million required to maintain the facility, and what I'm suggesting is that we use the $17 million that we have overdone in our slush fund, that the auditors have said is too big, that we just use that money to give back to the taxpayers. And that would still generate $20 million, which would be less than $3 million less taxed from the previous year. Any additional comment on my tax rate?
I do. So we'd have to shut down, what schools would we have to shut down if we followed his tax rate? Wouldn't we have to shut down Fortis Academy?
There would be no shutdown, because we would use the money that we have already taxed, the $17 million that we've already taxed the taxpayers of Harris County.
And I know
use that money.
And I know you stayed at a Holiday Inn last night and you think you know everything, but I actually wanted to ask Dr. Mesk what he thinks.
The differential between what we budgeted in our budget for 2020 and the 20 million, it's about $4.3 million difference in taxes. Now, a decline of $4.3 million into the budget, that means it's a significant reduction in our operations. So we would have to use fund balance money to operate. And generally, a organization does not use operating money from the fund balance, because that's not a good business model. You don't want to use your bank account to pay for your payroll for your daily activity. You want to use your fund balance for one-time items that are non-recurring. That $4 million would be somewhat non-recurring because it is significant.
I've got a question, Jesus. Our current budget, we have like a $2 million cushion in it or not?
No,
Okay.
that's that $2 million that you mentioned is for construction projects that are targeted for the current year.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, based on the numbers that you presented, you had $17 million, over $17 million of additional funds that are
Reserves.
just reserves.
Yes.
Okay, and those aren't even counting the reserves that we have reserved for the rainy day. Those are just over that, which is what the auditor said was we were overdoing our reserves. Is that true?
Well, we have a 34% operating fund balance. Typically, you are anywhere between 25 and 30%. So yes, we have above average reserves, and that is usually a good business model to have because you don't know whether it's going to have another Harvey or a slowdown of the economy or things. You want to be able to plan for it, and that's why you have reserves to be able to address that.
But Jesus, do you agree with the auditor that we have too much in reserve?
When you look at our fund balance, and you also look at that we also heavy on grants. We have to spend the money first and then get reimbursed. So we need to have a little bit higher than the average. So yes, we do have a little bit more than that, but it's because we also have a lot of grants, and we continue to add grants almost every month.
But you think we'd be okay if we adopt Mr. Sumner's proposed rate of .005?
Yes, the .0050 would be appropriate. We can still live within the appropriate means in the budget to be able to do that.
So,
Superintendent Colbert, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to say that I take a tremendous amount of pride in the fact that Harris County Department of Education for the past 5 years has lowered the tax rate below the effective tax rate each year. Being completely transparent that we've gotten more in the form of monies from the tax rate because property values have gone up, but we have disproportionately left money on the table, I guess, for lack of a better term, to try to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and I think we've done that and demonstrated that yearly. The proposed tax rate that we offered, Dr. Amesqua and I have worked on for weeks, if not months, on that. We built a budget around that. And there's variables that we don't control that certainly keep us safe and try to have a positive budget if it is approved. The tax rate proposed by Mr. Sumner's is lower than that than what we proposed, but it is doable. It probably decreases our margin for error, assuming that we have, I believe, what was it, Mr. Sumner's 99.98% collections and the values hold what they are. To go below that, especially to go at .0042, would be a programmatic problem. Dr. Amesqua has said himself that, we try to implement and maintain the discipline of a very good and effective business model that keeps us out of the red. This board passed a budget with us making the assumption that this would be a rate that would be approved, and to do something less than that would cause us to dip into savings to pay for operation costs with not knowing what we're going to do this time next year. Because we can make the assumption that this time next year we're not going to raise the tax rate back to what we're proposing now. So there's going to have to either be some programmatic changes or elimination of some things, or we're going to have to continue to suck money out of savings, our fund balance, to be able to pay for operating expenses. That's not a good business model. And so I believe that the rate that was offered by Mr. Sumner's is a fair one. I think it's a compromise. And I think that it continues to show that we are good stewards of taxpayer dollars to the citizens of Harris County. And I think it's reasonable. I think the budget that we presented to the board was reasonable, and we didn't ask for everything in the world that we could have. We asked for what we needed to continue to function and provide service.
Sure. So spending more money than you bring in is a really bad idea. That's the exact opposite of being fiscally responsible. I think it's a horrible idea to structurally set yourself up for failure. Other governmental entities have done that, and they're having serious problems with that. I know the city has done that, and even maybe some local ISDs have done that. It's just setting yourself up for failure. We're only talking about a few cents. This is a horrible idea. It's not conservative.
Just to be clear, we increased our budget last year, tax-wise, by $1.2 million. This current budget that was requested by Dr. Hamesqua is going to increase the taxes by, and that's lower than what the folks had wanted us to do. We'll increase the budget or the taxes by $1.3 million. Trustee Sumner's still increases the budget by $800,000. My proposal at .0042 will actually decrease the taxes collected and give back the money that was overtaxed in the first place. There are $17 million that can be given back to the taxpayers. And as testimony from the public had stated, my desire is to bring it to zero, okay? And knowing that there's some legal ramification with that regard, my thought was, well, let's just put it at 0.0 or .001 so that we don't have to deal with the legal side of it. And then after that, seeing the budget, seeing everything else, I was just looking for a spot to where we can go back a few years, just 2 years back, where our budget was $20 million. And that would put us at .0042. We have the funds. We can sit there and certainly make budgetary adjustments over the course of a whole year and then come back with an increase in budget for next year, but we have to kick it off somewhere. We cannot continue to just accumulate a mass of money. This is, the auditors have even said it's not appropriate. So I would like people to vote on my .0042 rate, and then we can move on to Don Sumner's rate.
The president seems to think that the city's model is a good model, spending more money than you bring in. I think it's a horrible model. I think it's dumb. And that's probably the easiest way for me to explain that. And this is a person, I actually own a business that generates in excess of about $5 million a year. I would not, in my own personal business, spend more money that I bring in, because it's just setting yourself up for failure. And then he even said, he had the audacity to say he wanted to put the tax rate at 0. He wants to get everybody fired. I don't understand how you could even sit on this board. I don't see how you could be sympathetic for public schools if you want to put our tax rate at 0. It seems like you just want to break stuff, Mr. Flynn, and that is not conservative. You are embarrassment.
Call the question.
Question has been called. Is there a second? All in favor of the tax rate of point?
No, you got to vote on calling the question.
I'm calling the question. All in favor of calling the question, please raise your hand.
Voting no, who's abstaining?
I'm going to vote no, but.
I want to vote no.
Yeah,
Five,
that's 2/3,
two.
4. Yeah,
I have to use a calculator to do my time.
Okay, the question has been called. All in favor of the tax rate of .0042, please raise your hand. All opposed? Back to the original motion, which.
No, the amended.
The amended motion, which is .005. Don Sumner's. Any discussion?
So once again, just to be clear, to go from the budgeted amount at .005.029, Dr. Mesqua will put. I guess you have to make up almost $500,000 in the budget somewhere. I guess the question becomes, I'm not sure how easy that. I mean, I know it is a $100-some million budget, but the question becomes $500,000. I guess as Superintendent Colbert said, that does leave some less room for error. How big a deal is that? Because I don't have to shuffle. I don't shuffle that much money around. I'm just saying. So.
Well, we'll just have to look at our spending patterns and be able to restrain.
But Jesus, you said you thought that was reasonable, right?
Yeah, we'll be able to accommodate it within the new year, but we'll have to have a plan of action on how to do that.
Dr. Mensquez, would you have to cut services?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment since this is my motion. My calculations, based on a prior year's experiences, is that we always end up with an excess or a decrease in our budgeted expenses by at least that amount without taking anything out of the services we provide.
To that effect, yes. So, for example, if we have turnover in our contracted employees, then we'll be able to save some money as we do that. So that's why we're counting on doing that.
So most likely, you're not sure yet, but most likely will come from things here and there. I guess
Savings in salaries and savings in expenditures. So we'll look at our spending pattern, primarily in our how much we budget for 100% of our salaries, and we do have turnover, and sometimes it takes a month or 2 months to fill a vacancy, and so we'll be able to absorb some of that cost.
Any additional discussion? All in favor of Don Sumner's rate of a motion amendment at .005, please raise your hand. Okay. And all opposed? Motion passes 4-3. Next item, consider approval expenditure of a license agreement between City Span Technologies.
I'm so sorry. That motion was to approve the amendment.
Okay.
Now you
All right.
have to.
Okay,
do the
back
main
to the
motion.
original motion. All in
As
favor?
amended.
Yeah, as amended. All in favor of the tax rate of .005, please raise your hand. All opposed? We good? Okay. On to the next item. Consider approval of a license agreement between City Span Technologies. Do I have a motion?
so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the approval of a license agreement between City Span Technologies, please raise your hand. Is that right? Okay, now we're going to consider the second reading and approval of the following revised policies. The list is CCA, CDA, CCH, CJA, CK, CQ, ZFE, ZFE, DCB, DEA, DEC, DED, DFD, DH, DHE, DIA, FMA, FNG, GH, GKA, GKB.
Got a question.
Oh,
Let's get a
Well,
motion. Let's get a
it's-
motion first so we know what
It
we're
was a
talking about.
question for the lawyer. My question is, we've got some of these that I know we're gonna have some amendments on, so how do we go about approaching that? Do we need a motion first?
It's up to the board. I know for some of these, there were some questions raised about applicable laws, and so I'm happy to address those in executive session, if you'd like.
Do you have a list of the ones that we spoke about last time that we had you were gonna draft some possible change in language?
Yes, and I believe Ms. Bartz has revisions to those in binders for you all.
So good question, Trustee Wolf. In your confidential draft binder in front of you, where you have a green sticky tab is where the policy has a second version in the binder, so that you can see the original version TASB recommended, and you can see the second version drafted after the policy committee meeting.
Okay, understanding that, if we can get a motion for the second reading.
I'd like to.
I'd like to make a motion that we,
Separate the issues?
no, just that we discuss these, that we consider the second reading and approval of the revised local policies.
Second.
Okay.
Now,
Yes, sir.
what I want to do is to move this vote on this until after executive session where we can discuss legal issues involved with with these policies.
Okay.
Second. Okay, so the motion made by Trustee Sumner and seconded by myself is to move this discussion to executive session. Is there any discussion with regard to that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of taking it to executive session, please raise your hand. Okay, and
Was that 6? Yes, okay. And Dr. Moore?
Against?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Motion passes to executive session. Okay, we do have an additional consideration of BED local that didn't make it on the first reading. Do I have a motion to accept the first reading, and we can discuss this?
You actually don't need a motion because there's no action for first
Okay.
reading. It's just a review.
Okay, but we can discuss that in executive session as well with the other
If
stuff.
there's legal questions, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Next, consider approval of First Amendment of Service contract between HCDE and EdOp Solutions, Inc. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. I have a question. See, we're increasing this by 20,000. My question is, how many more clients will this budget increase allow us to serve?
Good afternoon. It'll allow us to serve about 52 more students. 52?
52 more.
Other questions?
Any additional discussion? All in favor of considering approval of First Amendment to services contract between HCD and EdOp, please raise your hand. Next item, discuss the possibility of action to... Sorry, F, consider approval of contract between Case for Kids and the City of Houston. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All this revenue comes from a,
City.
yeah. Okay. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of item F, please raise your hand.
And I have a legal question on 7G, if we can move that.
Yeah, let's get a motion first. Item G, discuss the possible action to fill HCDE trustee position 1, precinct 2. Do I have a motion?
Oh.
Motion is to discuss, or I guess we need a motion to discuss anything. Is there a motion? What motion do you want? Do you? Well, we'll discuss what? We need.
We're moving a motion to discuss possible action.
Right. What is the possible action that you'd like to discuss?
To fill the trustee's position.
What it says in their process for.
Exactly what it says written down there. I'm not proposing a trustee. We're just,
Mr. Summers, is your motion just to discuss, not to approve a process, but just to talk about it?
yes.
Yeah, okay, thank
And
you.
Mr. Norris has something to say about this.
Yeah. So.
Well,
Sure. Oh, yeah, I'll second.
and I wanted to ask a legal question about it, so we could come to that after the executive session.
Is your motion to send this to executive session as well?
Well, yeah, but it's not really a motion. We don't have to take a motion on it because we're asking for legal advice.
It's one or the other. It's at the board's desire, however you'd like to do it. Usually by consensus of the board, if the board would like to consider an item in executive session, unless someone objects, that's how it's done. But if somebody does object, then a vote could be taken.
Well, we've got a request into the Attorney General's office. I'd like to discuss that.
Sure. And we can discuss that in executive session. That's no problem.
Seeing that there is actually no motion on the floor,
Yes, there
other
is.
than just discussion, that's really not a motion. That's just discussion.
Well, you have to get it to the floor
Right, you have to get, if you have a proposal that you want to address and you want us to talk about,
Okay,
you place that as a motion and we will discuss it. If
Okay.
there is none, then we'll discuss it in executive session, and then we'll bring whatever you come to conclusion in executive session, we'll bring it here, bring it out to the public, and then we can discuss the motion that y'all want to bring up.
Okay, so then how do we do that? I guess the question.
Do you have a process to recommend, Mr. Norris?
Yeah, so the process was going, as far as the process was concerned, I guess,
So
what
is
do we
the
do
mo-
with the
so-
last motion? Do we just
so
scratch
the-
it?
The
or
motion was
amend
to
it?
discuss, but if a more specific motion is desired, I would suggest something like, I move to approve the process for filling the vacancy, and then you can discuss with the board what that process is.
Yeah, that's what we need.
So we need to scratch our last motion, basically, and, because we can't have two motions at the same time.
Correct, and
okay.
so,
Thank
you.
okay, thank you.
All right, so,
And are you making that motion, Mr. Norris, just for
I
the
am.
record to be clear?
yeah.
Okay, and do
So-
we have a second? You need a second for your motion.
Second.
Well, he hasn't even described his motion
I didn't
yet.
describe my motion, don't I?
Well, you can discuss, I thought you were making the motion I suggested, which was to approve a process for filling a vacancy.
Oh, okay, sure, yes, I'll, so
And Mr.
moved.
Sumners, you seconded?
Second that,
Thank you.
All right. So considering what happened the last process, apparently it was very in-depth and kind of fell apart. Trustee Sumners and I basically decided that probably a simpler process, mainly a letter of intent explaining exactly why whoever is applying for the board would so give us their why, what is their, and then also give us their qualifications via resume, whatever. So basically tell us who they are, why they're interested in this position. As far as interviews, we did not, I think, Don, you said something to the order of we can possibly have meetings, but as far as long interviews and a whole long process, it seems like it's all going to come to a vote anyway. So the whole point was to keep it simple, have candidates apply, have candidates give us their letter of intent explaining why they're interested in the board, give us their qualifications for joining the board. And I think there's some posting requirements that happened last time. I think think you have to post it at the courthouse or on the website or things like that. Yeah. So, but far as getting the word out, but for the most part, the procedure would be mainly explaining so the remaining of us board members can see exactly who this person is and why they're interested, as opposed to just getting resumes or things like that we've kind of done thus far.
So it sounds like the motion is to place in the paper or a public disclosure soliciting people that want to do this and send us a letter. Is that correct?
It would be both a letter and a list of qualifications. So the process would be mainly, yes, I guess whether a cover letter or some kind of letter of intent explaining why they're interested in being a part of the board, and then also giving their qualifications, why
Like a
they would be.
resume?
And so,
Yeah, resume.
we'll
Yeah,
get
resume.
that through a public request, correct? Is that the motion, is to make a public request?
The motion is just the procedure, yeah, the motion is just that process. So the process being having who they are and why they're interested, so to speak.
I guess that's where I'm trying to clarify the motion so that we can actually write it down. So we're going to solicit people that are wanting to show, and that solicitation, the request would be their qualifications and their reasoning for wanting to be on the board. But we're going to solicit that, so that's what the process is to just do a public solicitation for the vacant board position.
Yes.
Okay. Can we get that? Can we do that?
Yes, sir. I might suggest one piece that was done before that I would recommend be done again this time as well is that with the prior vacancies, when a process was used, and you're free to tweak the process, of course, or have no process at all, you all know that. But one thing that I would recommend if you are going to do a process is to have the interested individuals complete this affidavit that goes through item by item the eligibility and qualifications to serve, which would include a statement that they reside in the precinct that's being vacated.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and we can make that in the public request, right?
Correct, and so I think the process would be as simple as interested parties should submit a letter of intent, qualifications, whether that's a resume, et cetera, and then third, a completed affidavit, and we would upload this affidavit onto the website so they could simply download it and complete it. And then, of course, the board would need to discuss some sort of deadline by which candidates would need to submit this information.
So do we have any language for a public request at this point, at this juncture?
I think the motion on the floor is to approve a process for filling a vacancy, which would include, and the process includes interested candidates submitting a letter of intent, second, qualifications, and third, the completed affidavit.
Correct, and what I'm saying is if I'm going to vote for it, which sounds great, but I'd like to have some language that I can look at, say this is what we're going to put in the newspaper or the web or whatever, and then we can say this is it. Do we need to tweak any of it? We can change to address any of your concerns, or your concerns, and then from that point we'll have something. We don't have anything concrete other than this concept, unless you want to give that responsibility to somebody else.
As far as the language to post a position, I don't.
The department would.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I'm sure we have something. I'm sure that.
Or their attorney would do it.
It was done before, though, right? As far as the publication. So
Yes.
I think it exists already. I think this is not the first rodeo, so I think it exists. So I think it's just a matter of putting it back out.
And I'm sure if any board member has feedback about if you want it in a specific publication, I'm sure that information would be solicited, and if you have that, the department would comply with that.
Okay, so is the public disclosure going to be at the discretion of administration then? Is that what we're asking? Is that what your proposal is? Is that what your motion is?
I would hope not. I want us to stay out.
I'd like it to be specific as well. But,
Okay, I got you. I think, I suppose I would ask for the last one, and I guess it just whatever was posted before, so we can see it, just to make sure there's no changes need to be done to it. It's just so everybody can be okay with it going out before it goes out.
Oh, could this be emailed to us so that could happen before the next board meeting?
Yeah. That would,
Like if we have any objections, we can let you know or something.
No, that's the purpose of a meeting.
Notice that we're going to require is we've used that in the past.
Yeah.
And I think since we're a countywide organization, it would have to be in the Houston Chronicle.
And just to be clear, there's no legal requirements in terms of publication for this, so
No.
it's up to the board. I mean, if you want it, I think an obvious thing would be to post it on the website, on the cover of the website, interested candidates for the HC board position. If so you wanted a notice published in the Chronicle.
It could just be in legal notices.
And legal notice in the
In the
Chronicle. If there's any
Chronicle.
other publications that any board member would desire, I would encourage you to speak now.
Right. I'm just talking about language at this point because we can pick where we want to after we have some language. If you can disseminate the previous request to our board members that have decided that they were going to be part of that, and then they can manipulate it to whatever they want to, then they can present that language to us and we can approve or disapprove it based on whatever y'all come forward with.
So I provided Mr. Norris and with Mr. Sumner's all of the documents that were used at the last time a vacancy was used. I emailed those. I also have copies for everybody if you'd like to see them. But as Mr. Norris said, it was a lengthy process. So for example, there were FAQs concerning the board vacancy that were posted on the website.
I think what they're wanting to do is avoid all that. They
Right.
wanted to get down to the
Right.
notice, the
Yeah.
notification.
To clarify things, I think, we need the notice. We want to go ahead and publish a notice so that we are transparent that we're seeking a new member. Okay. But we don't want to go through that process. We just want whoever's interested in it to submit a resume. And I think, Danny, you had wanted them a letter as to why they wanted to be a board member.
Okay.
Those are two requirements.
So I have, on the prior one that was done back in 2013, I have a sample advertisement that was published on the HCD's website as well as the courthouse. It just says in a prominent location and gave
Right.
dates of when it needed to be
Yeah.
posted. And so I can revise that. Is that what you
Yes,
guys were
that's
thinking?
what we're talking
And I have
about.
copies of those, and we can, if you'd like to see that. I don't have it updated because I wasn't asked to do that.
Okay, I'd like to have the language in front of me so that I can approve or disapprove. And so noting that we can't do that at this point, but we understand in concept what we want to do, if we could postpone this until next month's meeting to where we actually have language in front of us, and then we'll have it, we can actually put it on the agenda as a note as to what the thing, and then we can come back with anything that we need to change.
Not in favor of that.
You're not in favor of that? Okay.
No, I think we just can rely on what notice was published prior. I mean, it's right there, it's the legitimate language, and
think it
just
might help if everybody sees this.
reduce the process to submission of a resume and a letter of why they would like to become a trustee. My one thing that I wanted to point out was that no interview process would be required, but a candidate could agree to meet with a board member or members if they so desired.
Say that last part again, Mr. Summerlin, I didn't catch that.
In other words, there wouldn't be any formal interview process.
Okay.
But if a board member wanted to meet with a candidate and the candidate agreed to it, then they could meet.
I would just caution the board on that latter point that you'd want to make sure that that a quorum or more of board members
said
does
a
not do
board
that because
member.
that would violate. But even if you did it in series, so if, let's say, 4 of you wanted to meet with the same candidate, that would have to be at a properly called and posted board meeting,
Okay,
not,
yeah.
because that would violate the walking quorum prohibition.
Okay. Well, you can put that into it. Provided a quorum of the members does not meet with the candidate. I don't think that's going to happen anyway.
Any other discussion? Okay, just because, I'm just making it clear, I'm not gonna vote for this because I don't have any language, I have no idea what's gonna come up, and, so my vote will be against the motion at hand. So,
And one other thing for our discussion, this is something I thought about after Don and I talked. I just want, and I don't think it's be a problem, but I just want to make sure, because I thought about, in theory, it's possible that, well, I guess George won't be able to vote, but the remaining 6 of us can. And I guess if for a strange reason, I want to make sure it was the remaining 6 of us, because for whatever reason, if we had a meeting and say 2 people were sick, it's possible to, I guess, in theory, that 2 or 3 people can basically, which is basically half the board can possibly nominate somebody. So I don't know how, I don't even know if that's a process. I want to throw it out to the board when I thought about it, but it's theoretically possible that 2 or 3 people could pick somebody that all of us have to work with. So I'm not sure if we just want to make sure that, and it's whatever the decision is made by the remaining 6 of us to make sure that.
You still have to have a quorum.
That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, say a quorum is what, 4? So it's 4 people and 2 or 3 can, I mean, three can basically, 2 or 3, even say for some reason 2 people were for and 1 person abstained, 1 person voted against, it could still be.
That could happen.
It's possible that 2 people could possibly, I mean.
And I
maybe
believe
not
I've
like-
looked into this, not for this specific issue before, but whether or not the board could require more than a majority. So that's basically what you were suggesting, is that requiring all board members to be present, or requiring like more than a majority of those present and voting, which is the general rule. And I don't think that the board can do that. So I would encourage board members, if you care about this issue or any issue, you either need to be here present to vote, or you can video conference in accordance with the board
Right.
rules to do so. But that, what you just explained, yes, theoretically could happen.
And also, George could, though he might not be able to vote, that's still up in the air. He still can endorse, or you could still say a
He
candidate
could
you want.
suggest, yeah, sure.
And plenty of us will take that into consideration, George, who you'd want as your replacement.
You just can't formally.
And there's a question whether he can or can't. And I know your opinion is he can, and you very well might be right. But, At this point, at least you can do is, you can say who you like.
Absolutely.
Okay, would somebody that made the motion please restate the motion so that we can vote on it?
So, the motion would be to have it, well, I guess,
Would you like for me to try?
yeah, please.
And please correct me if this is not your motion. It's a motion to approve a process for filling the vacant position of Position 1, Precinct 2, with the process to include a one-page letter of interest, a resume, and a notarized affidavit affirming that individual's eligibility qualifications. And to further include that no formal interview process will occur. But if board members desire to meet with a candidate, they can do so provided a quorum of the board is not invoked.
And
You didn't mention the publication of the notice.
And the process process will be published via an advertisement at the county courthouse, at the Harris County Courthouse, and on HCDE's website in a prominent location. And I need feedback for how long you would like it posted, as well as when is the deadline for submission.
I think the next 3 weeks.
How about posted for 3 weeks, because
Yeah.
we're not sure exactly when the first date of publication will be.
Right,
So
yeah.
posted for,
Period
open
of-
for a period of
from-
3
yeah.
weeks. And when would the deadline be for submission?
3 weeks.
Okay.
The notice would specify that it was an applicant.
Or how about October 14th, which is that Monday before the next board meeting, which is
That's
October
good.
16th?
That's good.
And I can't remember, I don't remember if I heard your motion say anything about a supermajority, whatever you said?
It can't.
They can't do that, you can't, okay. So, okay.
No supermajorities.
There's no, okay, okay.
It could be based on the membership, though, not present. Be based on board membership, not those present.
I'd have to look into that, because I
We
haven't.
can make that stipulation, is what I'm saying.
The general rule is that a motion is passed, including a motion to appoint a vacancy, by a majority of those present and voting, which means not abstentions, those who are present either via video conference or physically present.
But we could, as a board, restrict that to board present, members present.
I don't believe that you can, but
cannot
I
do
would need
that.
to look at that before giving a formal recommendation.
So a quorum basically you're saying is, we can't do anything other than a quorum is the rule, or we can ask for more than a quorum,
I don't believe you can ask for more than a quorum.
okay. That's what
Well, not more than, a quorum is necessary in order to have a meeting.
Right.
At any agenda item needs to pass with a majority of those present and voting. So abstentions do not count. So if you have a 4-member quorum, it's the situation you described. You could have a motion pass if one person voted for and the other 3 abstained. That's a majority of those present and voting. Or you could have 2 members voting yes, 1 member voting no, or 1 member abstaining, and that would still pass.
So at this point, we can't restrict it to the board, the total board, and you're saying it could just be the quorum requirements based on law, and we
Right.
can't restrict it. Can we restrict it to a regular board meeting?
Yes, sir. You could by motion say that this item will only be considered, filling the vacancy will only be considered at regular meetings of the board.
That's a good.
And
good
I'd like to make that
compromise.
motion as an amendment.
Just add it to the motion to be voted on. We haven't voted on it
Okay.
yet.
Any objection?
Okay. So friendly amendment to the motion to add that any action item regarding filling the vacant position of position 1, precinct 2, shall only be considered at regular meetings of the HCDE board.
Any other discussion with regard to the motion that was just read and perfected? Hearing none, all those in favor of the process, please raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All those opposed? Abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay, so now we're going to move to executive session. It is 3 o'clock. Harris County Department of Education is coming back into order. It is 3:55. Do I have a motion? I'd like to make a motion to consider the second reading of the approvals of the policies. Are there any of the policies that need to be flagged, and we can discuss those and pass the rest? Okay, I only have one, and that is DIA local. So, save DIA local. All the rest of the policies are okay? That's the motion.
So, second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, with regard to DIA local, it is my motion to not make the change with regard to the word sex, adding it in addition to the word gender, until we have a decision from the Supreme Court with regard to the definition of gender.
Second.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead.
Just to be clear, that the motion is to exclude adding the word sex, but approving the rest of the changes?
Correct. Yeah, that was the only redefinition. In effect, by adding the word sex to the already established gender, we have diminished the value of what the definition of gender is. And until the Supreme Court defines it for us, I think that it is better for us not to diminish the definition of gender as it has been understood for many years. If we are going to add the word sex, then I would like to make sure we have a definition of the word gender that we can distinguish the two. And if we have a definition of the word gender, possibly my motion would be moot. But at this time, that's what I have to say. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, then we'll just vote.
So, what's the attorney's opinion? Does it set us up for liability to do what he wants?
Without waiving the attorney-client privilege, which would only the full board could do, it is my recommendation, as well as the recommendation of the Texas Association of School Boards, and specifically their policy division, that the word sex be added to policy DIA local, and that would best protect the department in terms of available affirmative defenses to employee claims of sexual harassment and other types of discrimination.
Discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the motion to remove the word sex in 3 different locations in DIA local, please raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, moving on to the underlying motion. All in favor?
There was no underlying.
Well, we have to approve the.
We just need a motion.
Oh,
though.
so move.
Well, I'm gonna-
Move to approve it as written.
I've got a question.
We need a second first.
Second.
Go ahead.
We're moving to approve with the understanding of the changes that were discussed with the lawyer in closed session, right? Well, I'm talking about the tape recording and the stuff like that.
The prior motion.
I guess I'm asking that question regarding that then. Yeah.
Those were the amended
Okay,
versions. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Any additional discussion? All in favor of DIA local as proposed? All against? Passes 5-2. Are there any other motions? Any other discussions? Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Let's leave. It is 4 o'clock.